Hello, Bookless classroom. Let me close that door because I hear people moving around and they probably don't want to hear the way that I shout across the room. So I'm going to quick close that door. Okay, we are back here in the Bookless classroom for the last of our 3 days on, and we had a little heavy duty early bird. So sometimes we talk a little bit above really young people's heads in our early birds class, but it's 9/11, and I was looking up some information. As you know, we saw the map on uh, the Persian Gulf War, and because of the play on names, 9/11, you know, I remember that there was supposed to be some major attack on January 1st, 2000. So there was this, so there is this theme of ones. And my sister was born on 11/11. And so, and I've said that before. And so there is this theme that goes along with that theme. But also I found that there is a theme that goes along with the wars. And I don't know what that is. Is that, you know, a big middle finger? What is that exactly? And I don't know. Training them on our own soil. That was a huge misstep. So there are, you know, there's a 9/11 report. I don't know how much of that 9/11 report has gotten out or not. I really had not a lot of interest reading it. I did have some interest reading one of those reports that came out. I can't remember which one of them. The one by Michael, that guy, and Trump and that Russian investigation. That one I was a little bit interested in. But, you know, then they had a summary report, and the summary report was a big lie. So, relative to the real report. So, I can't read through an 1,100-page political report. But there are things that are, you know, very interesting. How much of this is fact and how much of it is fiction, right? We're not really sure. I think that there are a lot of ideas that are meshing, which are science is, there's, the scientific method is not a fraud. The only scientists there are those who believe in and use the scientific method. Every other scientist is a fraud. And so in many ways, the medical community started out as fraudulent right from the very beginning, with a desperation built right into the statistic that will launch a prescription drug. Okay, see what I'm saying? So, I don't know exactly what I'm saying, but it's 9/11, and I do know that, and I do know that also. The other thing that is so GD disturbing to me that I use that language is what I keep seeing here. You know, I remember Colin Powell gave 2 speeches on this. The first one said there are no weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. Excuse me. Oh, somebody's getting me on that one, huh? Yeah, for sure. Choke on that, huh? That was Colin Powell's first report. There are no weapons of mass destruction. His second report was we do have definitive reasons. So Bush was allowed to go to war with Iraq on January 1st, 1/1 of 1991. And but because Colin Powell was like, no, we're not going to war without, I will not allow this. I will not send my men to war without knowing that what he's saying is true. There's a reason for war. So here you literally had the military uprising against the executive commander-in-chief, the president. I will not go to war. And also this major fact, and that is that, well, okay. The major fact is that we're going to war in the Holy Land, in an area of Holy Land where again there are Zaggarites of Ur. Babylon is 50 miles south of Baghdad, and I have a memory that those bombs were about 50 miles, hit about 50 miles south of Baghdad. Now, stop and look closely where Baghdad is. Right? And so there you can see all of the major air bases and also that can't be right. Yeah, it is. Of course it is. No. Let's see here. Capital cities. All right. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it is. Nice light gray over there. A nuclear facility there, too. So I don't know what the truth is, but I do remember that he was not allowed to go to war, that it was then a little critical because Congress had said go to war and there was no then element of surprise. They lost the element of surprise. I think they went to war on maybe the 20th, something like that. And that also would have been when George Bush would have been inaugurated. So it would not have been on Bill Clinton's watch. Very much the same as the hostages in Iran who were freed, but not on Jimmy Carter's watch. It wasn't until the 20th when they were freed on Ronald Reagan's watch. So you can really see where we are beginning to have this concept of Star Wars. Right? And I don't mean the movie. I mean literally in this era when Reagan became president, we called this nuclear Cold War Star Wars. And then the movie came out, and then it was kind of like this flip on words, right? Because not everybody was getting the concept that war was real, but also very conceptual. In that, how much of it is actually real, right? We have, and how much of it is, are you catching on to, if you know what I mean? Like, can you determine when the next play is going to be made? That's what I'm talking about. Star Wars. Like it's a game, but it's not. Right? And can you guess the next move? And you can see that they're playing with numbers. And they're playing with spiritual values, spiritual gods, small g gods, in a very mystical kind of way. So, when we went to war here, which is so connected, this is 1991. And then, again, declaring war, 1/1/91. Not 1100. 1101 is what they're looking for. It wasn't 1100 is what I'm saying. They're looking for then 1101. No. 911. And so you see the mentality and the strategy of a game of Star Wars. And it seemed like the cat was out of the bag. We called it back then, and this was in 91. So in 91, we were still in Grand Rapids. We went down to the basement. Yeah, it had to be our house in Grand Rapids, because we went down to the basement to watch it, as I said, on the big screen. I'm not talking about 9/11. I'm talking about this war here, the Persian Gulf War. Bush was granted permission to go to war on 1/1/91. Congress was. So 80 to 88 was Reagan, then was Clinton. No, then was George Bush for one session. For one term. So 88 to 92 under his watch. Bill Clinton gets in there for 2 terms. And then it's his son, George W., who goes back for Desert Storm. Under this guise that we need to go in there to preserve scientifically yeah, just a lot of I saw that pop up there, which reminded me, I'm not a donor anymore. I'm not an organ donor, but somehow it's like takes a major miracle to get that off of your license and they never have to ask you again. So I guess when we're the resurrected Christ or something, oh, sorry, no heart for you. Something to that effect. I don't know. I think it's heart donated. That's what I think. Both ways. I don't know. Anyway, I want to get back to this point about Colin Powell. And it's this. He was weeping. He was having a hard time not crying the first time talking about this. And the reason why is because he, at that moment in time, felt, oops, I'll keep that up there, felt relatively defeated. He knew what was going on, which was that we were going to go in there without reason, real reason or purpose. It was propaganda. He called it propaganda. Colin Powell called it propaganda. War. He called that war propaganda. And the next time he spoke, he completely fell in line. No tears, no nothing. He gave his speech, he stood up, and he walked out. And I do know that there was talk of his resignation and whether or not they would accept it. And of course they wouldn't. So a couple things here. Let me get, I have to get, it's just silly. In order for me to, there's my tree of life. There we go. Now, in order for me to keep moving on the cycle to see where I'm at on my video while I'm watching the video, I have to be on the video, and that map was not on the video. Okay, so let me show you, I'm going to show you this map, but then I'm going to also show you All right, I'm just going to pick it and show you. So I'm going to show you this other map. So that's the same area we're looking at. You can see there's the Persian Gulf right there. And there is, in the dark green to the, you can probably see it now, to the left of the Persian Gulf was part of Iraq is Kuwait. And don't forget that the first bombs that hit destroyed all of those oil wells. There were fires burning, destroying their oil wells. Okay? So, and then you could see that north of that is and then you can see in red where Babylon is. That is 50 miles south of Baghdad. So I was telling early birds that I did not plan on talking about 9/11, and as you can see, I had the Great Flood on there. And when I posted, which was nearing midnight, after 11, between 11 and 12 o'clock, when I posted my 9/11. So that's when I thought about it. Tomorrow's 9/11. I was getting ready for the class. I'd already had the slide up for the Great Flood. And so I didn't want to change the slide. I just didn't want it to be a 9/11 slide. I didn't want to make it seem like it was that far off course from what we were talking about, because it's not. All that is an event much later in history, but still very much in my mind connected. So again, and we've got this number game, because the 11s are associated with angels, although so are the 4s. So I don't know what is going on there. I think 11s, I don't know. I don't really know what's going on there. I thought maybe perfection, but I don't know. Numerical values, I don't know. So I asked AI, and that's what they came up with, a lot of stuff. I don't know. I should have asked just for spiritual references. But are we getting like the horror of this as well? I mean, we had the commander, not the commander in chief, but the commander of our army in tears, because this was a done deal. He knew we were going into, and the thing about it is I also remember another thing. And that is this whole thing with memory with me, and how God uses my memory in different ways as I've kind of asked him. I was so mortified by this. I remember I was so mortified by this. I was just changed by this. And I said it was one of those things I'm not going to remember until later, when I need to remember it. You don't want to remember, then I don't want to remember either. You don't want to remember what happened 10 years before 9/11? And these are out of sync. right-wing fascists. Out of sync. Completely out of sync with who was speaking on behalf of America. Who was really speaking on behalf of America? And the Americans let Colin Powell know. We want to forget. And they called it Desert Storm the next time. Almost no, every time up until now, this point in time, where all the memory came back about what that war meant at that time, to some Americans. And take it for what it's worth, right? I don't know. There are Star Wars powers, clearly. I was talking in Early Birds. Was that Lot's land? Was America, with all its resources and all its beauty and all its riches, was that Lot's land? And Abraham took the land, and he wanted all of those people out of there, all the Amorites, all the Moabites. You can take your land, but all your people are not going to be left here to infiltrate and violate our traditions and our customs. No different than leaving all those soldiers there in Afghanistan. They knew. They knew. They knew you don't leave a Moabite. You don't leave a Canaanite. They knew you don't leave an American soldier here. You don't leave somebody who is loyal to America here. It really is that you should know that map there that I'm using there is from Britannica. It's probably the reason why I keep getting short-changed on my streaming right now, because I had that map up there. So I just, hopefully maybe things will change a little bit because I put that map down. And I still have the picture of it though. So I really honestly have been going long on this Bookless classroom. And I might be done for today. I think I'm going to be done for today. I think that's my no more yapping today. I know it bothers some people immensely, the things that I say. But why don't you just sit on that for a while? Why don't you look that stuff up? What kind of Star Wars games are they playing with our Americans? With their minds? With their loyalties? With their nationalities? All of those kinds of... It's what they called Star Wars. They called it Star Wars. And between the two, and honestly, we can be taken for a loop on any of this. I just don't have any doubt about that. Let me look here and see if I can't get, I think I can get the other map here. So there we have the same areas right there being represented. Let me. And I just, yeah, really think it's not a bad idea for you to snack on that for a while. All of you who are around me thinking that my voice is somehow not a voice to be heard for America. Anyone who says my voice isn't a voice for America is really, really opposed to all that America stands for. And really, then it comes down to you're just about the land. That's it. You're just about the land. And I don't think people to me, Colin Powell to me looks like he is what do I want to say? Well, he looks like he's indigenous to America. He looks like he is from Native America. He looks like he's a Native American. And he is from one of the islands anyway. So certainly Colin Powell has a real grasp, had a real grasp on imperialism. And then to be coaxed into being on record, historical record, as being a part of it. Yeah, he resigned. They didn't accept his resignation. Not on my watch, General. Okay, that's it. That's what I'm talking about today. So you can go into the notes. I put the link there in the description for the entire series of On the Bible. And you can go to the playlist. It'll play one after another. There are like 280 episodes of it. But if you go to the link, the video link outside of mine, you will be able to download all the notes that I'm reading from I'm reading from the Bible actually, but some of the background notes. And as we said yesterday with Cain and Abel, there really is a complete misnomer to represent Cain as a murderer that was enraged when the Bible does not put it that way. And what it clearly looks like is that, first of all, there was no idea of what murder would be or even reign. And tilling the land and understanding this. So whatever happened in the slewing of Abel and the spilling of blood was part of God's plan. The coaxing of Eve in the garden. And Eve, I don't believe Eve ate that apple. I don't believe she did. I believe that she could have, without intention and without sin, for the narrative, for God's story. I'm just thinking how that plays out in verbiage. Okay, so September 11th, We are here in the classroom on day 245. I will be back here to read chapter 17 of our book, A Different Mirror. I have to figure out a new book because we're almost done with that book. And I have no ideas, but one always pops up for me. So I'll figure it out. Thanks so much for joining me here in the classroom. This is Dr. Annette Feravich. Hopefully you have some plans and some inspiration for things that you might want to do on your 4 days off. Thanks so much for joining me here.